Hello, everybody. Happy Monday. Anna Sabramowitz here, and I am your interactive storytelling coach. Let's get right into it. So today I'm going to talk to you about where your interactive story can actually add the most value and be the piece that is the catalyst for everything else to go even better. And the reason I'm talking about this today is because I've gotten some questions about people asking me, where would I put an interactive story? Does it replace the other things that I'm working on? Does it replace my other training? Where can I use this powerful tool? And today I'm going to walk you through where to do that. Now, if you are here, make sure you say hello in the chat. If you have questions about the things that I'm talking about and the strategies that I'm sharing, please post them in the comments because usually I do address them sometimes during the live even, all right? So first off, I got a question, fabulous question, and it was about, Anna, what's the difference between an interactive story and just a well-done simulation or a branch scenario? And that's a solid question. And the reason I want you to really think about this is because the interactive story is a strategic tool. It's not something you just like pepper in everywhere, or one of the things that happens when you first learn about interactive stories, you say, hey, can I just replace, or do I have to replace all of the training we've already got in the LMS with interactive stories? Is that how this works? And the truth is no. And in fact, you wouldn't want to use an interactive story for training or to replace everything that you have in it, because that would be in fact quite probably frustrating to the learner, and let me tell you why. All right, so I just want to get this straight out. So when people are asking about I'm just gonna say hi. When people are asking about, what's the difference between an interactive story and branch scenario, I would say, go back to, we're looking at elements instead of power, right? It's like saying, what's the difference between a fridge manual and the Bible? Well, they both are built, let's say, in a publisher house. They both have covers. They both have words and pages. So if we're looking at mechanics of things, then definitely an interactive story is going to look like a branched simulation, a branched scenario, a branched simulation, a simulation. It's going to look like an e-learning module. Sure, it's going to look like all those things. In other words, everything's built out of paper. Online, everything's built out of pixels, potato. But there's a huge difference between these two, right? And there's a huge difference between an interactive story and a simulation and a branched scenario. Those are very, very different things. And so what I want us to start getting into the mindset of is, just because something is built with the same tool does not mean the output and the strategy and the power that it has is ever going to be the same thing, ever, right? Because these two things, you could really say they're the same thing, but you really know that they're not, right? So, fridge manual versus the Bible. Here, what are they doing? Powerful storytelling, right? Here, this is the how-to guide. Some people might consider the Bible the how-to guide, but really it's about telling you a story that propels you towards something, right? The fridge manual is there on demand when you need it, but let's just say at the base of it, it's different, okay? So now let me tell you where an interactive story, something you can leverage, that you can use to actually, if you already have training in your organization, how you can use this powerful tool to amp up the value of that learning without having to replace it all with this weird notion that everything needs to be a story. It does not, all right? So, and I think that's one of the dangers that we get into. We think, storytelling's hot, let's just put it in everywhere, and then we try and wrap everything in a story. When I'm looking at a fridge manual, I don't want a story. I want a how-to, punchy, get to the point, right? But there's a challenge there. Why would I want to be looking at the fridge manual, right? You got to get me, you got to get me a new fridge, or something needs to be broken. I have to have an urgent need to solve that problem, and therefore that's why I'm looking at this manual. So this is what's key. And I hope you guys can see this, and I hope you guys can see this the right way. Okay, so one of the things that I'm really a proponent of is that when you, a lot of the learning that we design for people, right? We assume they're already hot audiences, as in they're aware that they have a gap. They're excited to learn, look at that manual. They're excited to check out their training and they see its value, right? Which is very minimal as far as I'm concerned, as far as learners go, right? It's probably like 10% of your learners. And hello there, Karthikeyan. I'm thinking I'm saying that okay. And Nurdan. That's so cool. So one of the things that you have to consider is that most of the learning that you're designing is not, there's a reason why it's not being accessed, why it's sitting in the LMS, why most of the organizations I talk to, 30% only of their learning that they've ever created is actually accessed on a regular basis, if that. There's a reason, because we're designing learning for people who already get that they need it and they see its value. And I got to tell you, just because you put a "what's in it for me" at the beginning of your awesome training manual, that does not mean that somebody's going to go out and seek it out and actually look for it. They actually have to get there first. So how do you get them there? Well, the thing is, you got to move them from a place of complete unawareness. Most of the people in your organization, or people in the world, really, they're fine where they are. Something's got to happen to them that turns them into somebody who says, you know, there's a gap and I want a different future, or something's not working. How can I fix it, right? And for a lot of people, really, as far as I'm concerned, what we're looking for is behavior change, right? They're fine in the way they are going about their day. Everything's fine. You know, they're also probably making justifications about, you know, I'm not meeting my top sales quotas because, you know, Jimmy is stealing all my clients, or I wasn't born a salesperson, or I'm not really that confident and that's just the way I am, and so I can't fix that, and therefore, you know, or other things, right? So what's happening is they're fine making up their own universe right here. And that's very, very far away from somebody going, I really need to check that training out because that's going to help me, you know, be a better salesperson, help me, help my family be more successful, all those things. They're not there yet, right? So what happens is, and I kind of like to break it up into this whole idea of logic, right? This is where the logical side is, where this is where all your training is. This is where, you know, you're reaching out to a mentor is. This is where your performance is, like job performance supports, job aids, all that stuff. That's right here. It's logical. You need this, blah, blah, blah. Let's make it work. And a lot of us, and when we work even with subject matter experts, right? This comes along. They'll say, you know, how come this dude over here isn't accessing our training or isn't actually doing his job properly? And they're like, well, it's because he's not following the manual. I was like, no, actually a lot of times he's not following the manual because he doesn't think he needs to access the manual in the first place, or he has some sort of internal beliefs that hold him back from actually executing on these steps. So how do we fix that? Well, we got to connect with this person emotionally first. And I know for some people, they're like, where I work, we don't do emotions. Okay, all right. So if you're not dealing with humans, then you don't need to watch this. But if you're dealing with humans, and I don't care if they're engineers, lawyers, accountants, salespeople, moms, dads, whatever. If they're people, they have emotions. And if they're people, they make their decisions based on emotions, and then they use their rational mind to justify those decisions logically. That's how it works. To deny it is to rob yourself of the opportunity to really connect with these people and actually get them to move towards a behavior that will help them become better employees, better people, better humans, better citizens, whatever your vision is, right? So your interactive story is meant to connect with somebody emotionally, and you do that through storytelling and by giving them agency. So yes, it looks like you're building it in Articulate Storyline or Captivate or whatever, but guess what? It's a completely different beast, because it's not about to train somebody on how to become a better salesperson in a 15-minute span. That's just not possible, right? What it is supposed to do, though, is supposed to wake them up to the possibility that if they just took up this challenge if they went through some of these scenarios and they thought, that didn't turn out the way I wanted it to, but I'm helping this character Jim, maybe think of a better future or get a better future, because he's going to take up this idea that it's his emotional intelligence that's holding him back, not actually the steps, or his world is not as perfect as he thought because those excuses aren't really real. They're just things he made up for himself so that he wouldn't try hard, or that everything would be okay, because he didn't know how to solve this problem, right? So really what your interactive story is doing here is awakening somebody, making them aware when they were not aware. You're actually making them aware of something. And then your job as a person who's crafted this awesome interactive story is to give them now, because they're going to get hot and enabled. They're going to be like, okay, wait a minute. If Jimmy can sell, or find out that if he just improves his emotional intelligence, that he's actually going to have better relationships at work, and then he's going to have better relationships at home. Whoa, I wonder if there's some training or some resources or somebody could connect to that could help me with this. Boom, right? This is where the logic makes sense, because now they're ready. Now they're excited. Now they see the point, right? So the what's in it for me, if you're giving it over here, it's because, you know why you're doing it? Because you're realizing that you gotta sell it to them here. But here, they don't see it at all. They're over here. Right? Nobody wakes up in the morning and says, hey, I can't wait to get into the LMS and just peruse it to see if there's anything valuable in there. I mean, maybe like 0.505% of the population does that, right? Because we know it's called Wikipedia and YouTube, and you don't peruse it for fun. You peruse it when you have a need or you want to entertain yourself, right? So how do we get somebody who is unaware that there's an awesome training manual in there, or an awesome training series on how to become the best, how to improve your relationships, how to become a better, whatever it is that they're doing. Your LMSs are full of this stuff, right? How do you get them excited? You use an interactive story. Your interactive story does not replace this training. It's supposed to get them excited about it. And you don't build an interactive story for every piece of training, because sometimes you actually just need a simulation that shows you how to deal with a customer. And that does not need a story. That actually just needs for you to create something powerful and contextual so that I can get into it right away, because I actually want to get into it right away, because this has sold me on that journey of stepping out of my comfort zone and actually jumping in here. So it's kind of cool, because a lot of the people that I work with, they're work in organizations that don't necessarily understand the power of this, right? They just want like fast and quick, and they want a lot of this. They're spending so much time and resources over here, while they could just really craft a couple of powerful interactive stories to get people sold on the journey of learning, and boom, they wouldn't even have to fix this, right? So there's people in my organization or in our membership that actually are building their own interactive stories to solve real problems in the world, and to showcase that as something that they could do. But what's awesome is that they're actually solving with these problems. They're solving these problems with an interactive story. What happens there, and I know this is weird, but a lot of times people build portfolio pieces which showcase the work that they want to do, right? But they don't realize that if they craft a story that solves a real problem out there in the world, that actually makes that story actually viral, as far as I'm concerned. Because if your interactive portfolio piece, think about this, instead of it just being a bunch of screenshots of stuff that nobody knows or cares about, and it's screenshots of work of other companies, instead of it being that, right, but just a visual dump of stuff, which everybody has, imagine if you have an interactive story out there that you can share with people, and you're like, this is what I do, but it solves a problem at the same time. So regardless of whether they are a client or not, they'll probably spread it to other people if they feel it's a valuable message. Isn't that cool? So you can actually use an interactive story to not just be an inside organization tool to drive people to the LMS. An interactive story can be, in essence, a lead magnet, right? Where you have a whole bunch of cold audiences out there, people who don't know that they need coaching, people who don't know that they need help with, how to deal with grief, how to deal with the difficult family situations, how to deal with when they have surgery and they don't know how to take care of themselves at home and how difficult it's going to be. All those things are real problems out there in the world. And now these guys are just using that to actually goodwill, solve a real problem, and also at the same time show people what they can do with this tool. Win-win as far as I'm concerned, right? So the vision is we got 1,000 of these kind of interactive stories out there. And it's going to be awesome. Now, if that sounds like something that you want to be a part of, if that sounds like something you want to get ahead of instead of watching all of these lives, I mean, you could definitely do a lot by just watching these lives and implementing. That's all there is. But if you want guidance, you want feedback from people who are actually on the same path as you, and every single day somebody shares a new story or a new project they're working on, and then we get to actually work through the process again with them as we're trying to see what their goal is. That's how you get awesome, as far as I'm concerned, is you look at other people's work on top of building your own, because you can't just be, the armchair critic, but being in a community that's really solidly committed to making sure that you're solving a real problem, you emotionally connect with people. Because a lot of us we're great at the scenario building. We're like, oh yeah, I can come up with like 15 or 20 scenarios off the top of my head, right? On the topic that I'm really passionate about. And that's pretty cool, right? Because then you can be a very good judge about what's going to work and what's not going to work in those scenarios. But to craft a compelling story, that takes iteration, that takes patience, that takes a little bit of work. And so to have other people give you feedback along the way that actually understand, what you're trying to accomplish, that's huge. And we're not, if you're looking for discussions, research papers, and likes, this ain't the place for you. I'm looking for people who are open to new ideas, aren't attached to their instructional design dogma, aren't attached to Addie or Sam or anything. They're just clear minds saying, I want to learn something new that will challenge me. It will push me beyond my comfort zone. It'll probably make me vulnerable. If you're the kind of person who's thirsty for connecting with other people who are actually wanting to improve, then that's the kind of people that I'm looking for. So I'm looking for 3 more people to join us in the next couple of weeks. If that sounds like you and you want to figure out, I'm not saying you're going to be a fit. Just because you like interactive storytelling doesn't mean you're a fit. You have to be somebody who wants to be, who wants to execute, right? Who wants to build something, because I'm looking for people who I can actually help. And the goal is for you to craft your own interactive story. Now, if you're just going to sit back and watch, that's not going to help you or me, right? Because I'm looking for success cases. So if that sounds like something you want to be a part of, I'll put the link underneath the video and you guys can join me. Hey, Kurt, nice to see you here. And then you guys can book a strategy session with me. Make sure you fill in those questions. Now, the strategy session is really about me figuring out, what your vision is, what your skill set is, and if it's a fit for what our community is, because we're small, we're very focused about what we do, and we're very supportive, and so it makes a difference about who's in there, right? So I hope you understand that. So if you think you'd be a good fit for this, answer those questions, because they also give me a really good context about what you're looking for. And if you have a portfolio, I ask you to share it in there as well. If not, that's something we can talk about. So I hope you have a fabulous rest of the day. If you found this useful, then please like it or share it with somebody who you think would benefit from knowing about how to use this interactive story strategy in their learning. All right. I hope you have a fabulous rest of the day, and I will see you here again tomorrow, or I'll talk to you soon on a strategy session. Take care, friends.